Dr Eric Schneider is an assistant professor at the LSE and recently contributed to a paper on early fetal development. So how would you characterise that paper?
So it's really an opinion piece that I wrote with some colleagues in obstetrics and physiology that questions the idea of having an optimal pattern of fetal growth.
And how did you go about producing the paper?
Well, the paper really came out of a conference that Mark Hanson and I organized at the University of Sussex at the end of 2014, where we were really discussing how we could measure fetal health at a population level, and how we could measure it in the past, in the present, and in kind of developing countries where the kind of infrastructure for collecting that data isn't quite as good. And so the discussion about the optimal fetal growth came out of a discussion of the Intergrowth 21st paper, which had looked at a number of countries and created an optimal kind of trajectory for fetal growth.
And what impact do you hope this paper will have?
Well, I really hope it will begin to do two things. Really to raise awareness that actually historical evidence can be really powerful when looking at medicine in general. And the fact that birth weight distributions and means have been very, very stagnant over the last 150 years, I think flies really in the face of a challenge that, improving conditions would somehow equalize all of the differences in birth weights around the world. And then the second thing is really just to raise awareness that birth weight is really quite a problematic indicator, and fetal growth is really a process and not kind of an outcome in and of itself. And so we need to think more about what actually is influencing development and what does that mean for later life health outcomes.
So what's the significance of this work?
Well, I think the significance really is in challenging an idea that there might be something a growth trajectory that could be optimal for fetuses. And that's important because it makes us think a bit harder about maybe taking some of the easy findings from the intergrowth studies and applying them directly to kind of population policies about induction of labor or cesarean section. And that's really important because those interventions could do more harm than good in the long run.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.